Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Resilience Resourcing Podcast. This is a connection space where badass women share their real on their way to resilience. Each week, I have the pleasure of spotlighting women dominating in a diverse landscape of fields ranging from performance neurotraining to film and all in between. You will get to know the unique qualities these women each carry and how connecting with these empowering women's stories bring about camaraderie and in turn empower you towards your unique dreams and goals. So today I get to talk to Cassie King, and Cassie and I actually met almost 10 years ago. And we've stayed in contact recently, connected more along the lines of some work that you've been doing with a new makeup line that is really all about your health and not getting more toxins in your body. And so do you want to just first share with us a little bit about Beauty Counter and what got you into all of the good of what this makeup line offers without it being like the toxins and all those things that we just don't want?
Yeah, I'd love to. So first of all, thank you for having me on and talking with me.
Of course.
But Beauty Counter is we're the leaders in clean. We just reached our 10-year anniversary this month in March.
Wow.
And the reason Beauty Counter came into existence is because our founder, Greg Renfrew, she wanted to put clean ingredients on her body, and there was a lot of clean ingredient companies, but there wasn't anything that was clean and worked. If it worked, it had a lot of toxins. And so she set out to change the world. Her mission our mission is to get clean products into the hands of everybody. And so the way we do that is by lobbying with Congress and trying to get laws set in place that can bring it so that you can walk into a Walgreens on the street and buy a $10 cleanser and not have to stare at the ingredients and wonder if it's safe for your skin.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the United States FDA only bans 30 ingredients in personal care products. European Union bans over 1,600. So 30 versus 1,600.
Huge difference.
And those ingredients include things like formaldehyde and petroleum.
Formaldehyde, isn't that like a...
What you use to embalm a body?
I thought so. I was like, I don't want to say it, but I'm pretty sure that that's what they put in you. Wow. They put that.
Yeah, you don't want that in your body.
Because that's meant to last
deemed
forever.
Safe in the United States.
Wow.
Even though it's not safe, but they can put it in there. So Beauty Counter bans 2,800 ingredients.
Oh my God.
So they go above and beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you can have these products that are safe, yet they're extremely effective, and they do the job when you have all these other companies that are just piling in this junk and thinking it's okay. My biggest thing is that a lot of them are targeted towards children and women in general.
And the mass majority of the public doesn't think, probably the last thing they think about is that they're going to be putting something in your skincare or in your makeup that they put in dead bodies to keep them from decaying for hundreds to thousands of years.
Right.
It's crazy. Nobody would even think that would be legal, but I've heard the FDA, people think it regulates a lot of things that are, toxic for us and keeps us safe. But from what I've heard, things are only regulated based off of down the line, them seeing, oh, this caused this, now we'll look at it, versus ahead of time, this could cause bad, testing it ahead of time.
Right. I don't want to be a lab rat. I want to know that it's going to be safe before I put it on my body. I used to be that person that said, oh, well, they wouldn't sell it if it wasn't safe. they sell it if it's not safe.
It's, I mean, especially like you said, like women, like, you know, we, this amount of cancers and breast cancers and all types of things that we get, you know, more so than men, and a lot of because of our hormones and the way that our bodies are made. Like, there's a lot of, we should be even more careful about the things that we put on our skin and in our body. Yet we're like marketed to as almost like the, you know, uneducated don't, you know, like they don't expect women to look into this kind of stuff. Like, the research hasn't put the money into investigating this stuff until it sounds like Beauty Counter really has, even further than just their line. But, you know, do you want to expand on what they're doing, you know, on a national level that's not just within selling their own products?
Yeah, so we sent people every other year. They send a group of women and men that work for the company to lobby for Congress and help make laws that pertain to the ingredients and safe products that go into, or safe ingredients in the products that we use. And we've helped change 9 landmark laws so far. And one specifically that's going in through Washington state is that they would ban fragrance, which is 3,000 unknown chemicals that are just a loophole of putting whatever you want in a product. It doesn't necessarily mean scent. But Beauty Counter has been a big part of making that happen in Washington state. And so by 2025, if it passes, with the Senate, the state Senate, that would ban those ingredients from being sold in Washington. So the goal is to change the beauty industry, not just get people to only shop with Beauty Counter.
Yeah.
But obviously we like our products and our products work. So we'd love everybody to shop with Beauty Counter, but realistically the goal is to change the beauty industry.
Yeah, and I mean,
turn it upside down.
That says a lot about the company, because like they know that other companies can capitalize on the, you know, once those laws are passed, or, you know, other companies are going to look into clean beauty to market it. They're not just looking at a profit. Obviously they have a profit, but they're looking at long-term, you know, health and helping the vast public, you know, when it comes to passing laws to change, you know, the beauty industry like you talked about. So that's really big. And that says a lot about the company. And, you know, probably just, I feel like it's good to just kind of talk about this right off the bat, because, you know, I know for me, like when we first started talking about it, you know, Beauty Counter, I didn't know enough about Beauty Counter as a company, you know, and we have all these things that are marketed to us like nonstop, you know, from any kind of health trends and things like that. And so people will probably quickly think like, oh, this is just like multi-level marketing. And, you know, that's kind of what goes on in your head when you first hear about any kind of direct sales. Like we immediately go into, oh, is this another MLM? But Beauty Counter really is different, because as I've gotten to know a lot more about it, it's not a multi-level marketing, and they use direct sales because they have a story that you can expand on a little bit more. But like the thing that got me is the fact that, you know, I've been using makeup obviously since I don't even know what age, probably 13 or younger. And I have sensitive skin, and I will have breakouts, and even sometimes my mascara, like my eye will start like just running, like just so much like irritation, and I don't know why, because it's supposed to go, like it's supposed to be made to go on, you know, to be close to your eyes, and it's not like I'm getting it in my eye. So, you know, why is this happening? And I've just noticed my skin is really, really sensitive, and you know, noticing that there's that's not just me, like other people have this issue, And it's because of what the products that the chemicals and things that are in our makeup. And like, I will have you expand a little bit on that, but like, I think the other side of it is when we think about brain health and we think about mental health and we think about our holistic health, you know, it really is not just what we eat and consume and how we exercise and sleep and all those things. It's also what we put on our body. Because, like you said, skin is the biggest organ in our body. And it's something we don't often think about, how much of what we put on our body really goes into our bloodstream, into our body. And like lotions and makeup and all of those things, if they have toxins, if they have things that forever chemicals last forever in your body, it really does have a negative impact on your brain and mental health. And so that's why I got really interested in this line and into what you do, because we got into a bigger conversation really about health and whole health and how this affects everything. And toxins, no matter how you get they come into contact with you, affect your body. So do you want to expand a little bit more on kind of your how you got into it and how what you've noticed even with your children, like you talked about, like just the importance of that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna back up a little bit to where you were talking about mascara. So most mascaras have a have carbon in them, carbon black, which is the same material that is found in your tires. So that's what is probably that is not something you want around your eyes.
No.
And so that is a huge reason why there's a lot of sensitivity with that. And most mascara also contains PFAS, which are forever chemicals, which is the same stuff that's in like nonstick cookware.
Which they've already proven that that can cause cancer.
Yes.
Wow.
They have. But it's still allowed. It's allowed still on pans and it's allowed in your makeup. And there's actually a lot of natural brands that still contain a lot of PFAS as well. But how I got involved in it and how I got started on this journey was before I'd ever heard or tried a beauty counter, I had started with looking into foods and looking at what I should be eating, found this app called Bobby Approved with this guy that tells you all the different like foods that are approved by him based on like seed oils, which are, we know, inflammatory, which make your brain health and your mental health affected by that. So it just kind of started with a journey through that. And then I was using, it was summertime, and I was using sunscreen on my kids, and I was just using an aerosol, which that's a whole nother story. But Neutrogena sunscreen, and it ended up being one of those ones that was recalled because of the cancer-causing components in it. And I don't think Neutrogena set out to cause cancer in people, but the problem is that it's not batch tested. And so as it gets produced, these things leach in, and then it happens, and then they don't know until millions and millions of people are already putting it on their bodies. So I quickly returned that to Costco and was like, how do I know what to put on my children? So then I started investigating and down into like what is safe, what is not. And I quickly found a lot of information, and some of it was very overwhelming, and some of it was true, some of it wasn't. It was like hard to kind of pick through. But I started using Beauty Counter from a friend's mom of my friend's mom was selling it, and I started trying it, and I could immediately tell that like this was much better than the Biore, which I don't even know what's in it, but I do use an app called Think Dirty, and it's rated from like a 0 to a 10, and Biore is like a 10. So that's what I had been using prior. And so I quickly realized that it works, and it's good for me, and it's safe for my children. And I knew that it was definitely something I had to go forward with, because one crazy thing, I have two daughters, and the craziest thing about women to me, or fascinating things, is that we carry all of our eggs that we're ever going to have in our whole life from the moment we are born. And so a lot of these chemicals and these products that are going into people are endocrine disruptors, and they cause a lot of infertility, and they cause on top of cancers and on top of things like that. But I'm responsible for what's going into my girls' bodies, and if I'm putting products on them that is potentially going to cause them to be infertile because of the crap and the garbage and the junk that's in these products, I don't want to do that. And I want to make sure that they're set up for success the rest of their life, that their bodies are as healthy as they can be when they're at the point in their life that they want to go and start trying to have children.
I mean, knowledge is power, and like when you know better, you do better. And I think like really you sharing this information is going to open the eyes of a lot of people who don't even think about that. Like, you know, we really do know a lot about what these toxins and things can do to our bodies. And you know, just talking about infertility and how that, you know, you were just saying like women have as many eggs as they're gonna have like starting out, and like you can affect that even now, the toxins and fertility of even your young daughters, like thinking about that, like that's, we all need to be stewards of the information that we have. And like, you know, thinking even just our brains too, like what we put in our bodies and how it affects us. We we don't even, we know like lead and things like that that are not not meant to have levels, high levels of that in our body, and how that affects, we know that that affects our brains. We already know that. And like, um there's so much of that in makeup, and like people don't even think like this is what I'm putting on every day, like no big deal. Like you're already worrying about what you're eating, making sure you get enough exercise and sleep, and then, you know, to not even be thinking that you're putting stuff on your face and on your skin that is counteracting that in some ways, because it's putting more toxins in and on your body and in your whole body, in your bloodstream and all of that. The other thing is like, you know, we all have a journey of what gets us to understand. Like for me, it was the like light therapy, and that was what really helped with inflammation in my brain. And like I discovered light therapy, and that was like a huge like life-changing thing for me. But like, you know, everybody has a different kind of aspect of whole health, and it all affects us, it all affects our brains, it all has an impact on us. And you know, that was part, it seems makeup really has been part of your journey, just naturally it became part of your journey because of your the situation you had when you were dealing with the sunscreen and putting this on your children and realizing, oh my gosh, like this isn't like safe. And so that got you into that journey of, you know, realizing makeup and what we put on our faces and in our bodies, on our bodies, really does impact us and our health, and something you can do about it. But is there anything else really in your journey that um, kind of led you towards health, other than just, I mean, makeup is a huge part of it, but are there other aspects of health in your journey that kind of impacted you towards whole health, not just makeup, but other aspects? Because we connected on that, and it seemed like you weren't just focused on makeup. You really are holistically looking at like what you eat and how you exercise and all of those things. And is there any part of your journey that led you in that direction, or any struggles you had? We talk about resilience a lot on this podcast. So any stories of that throughout your journey, just in the last, maybe even growing up into now?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. For sure, I couldn't say it was just one thing. I think it's a multitude of getting from one place to who you become. But growing up, I was so focused on like not eating. Now I'm more focused on what I can eat, what are healthy fats, how I can like feed my family nutritiously. But growing up, I was so concerned about being as thin as I could possibly be. And I just didn't eat. I wouldn't say I was anorexic because I ate enough to not, I don't even know how you would describe what I had, but like, I just think it was just a mental thing in me where I would only eat like 1,000 calories or less a day. And the pounds going down on the scale was like affirmation to me that I was doing it the right way. But clearly that wasn't the right way. That was not good for my mental health. That wasn't good for my physical health. It really just was definitely the wrong way on how to be healthy, when in reality, what I should have been doing looking back is really focusing on just being like now, where I focus on whole health and the nutrients and like whole foods and what I can put in my body that's going to nourish me. And I've noticed like when you do those, when you're focusing on like going to the grocery store and looking at what foods are nutritious, not which foods are low in calorie, that you just are so much healthier. And the pounds on the scale, I don't even step on a scale. I don't want to look at that. That's not important to me. What's important to me is just being healthy, and whatever that entails with eating the right foods and providing the right amount of nutrients and eating things that aren't inflammatory and like cause brain inflammation or gut inflammation, which ultimately affects the way that you work as a whole body. And how it's all interconnected, how you really have to focus on everything if you're going to be concerned about the whole journey.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, they've learned how much, they call it the gut brain barrier, and how much the gut and the brain is, gut is almost known as the second brain. It really is known as the second brain because they've learned so much about that. But like you said, like, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people, even now, some people get really caught up in calories and like,
Yes.
oh, I gotta have a certain amount of calories and make sure that I'm, this is the only way to be thin. And it's like, it's not about being like a certain size or counting a certain amount of calories. It's really what you're consuming, where you're getting those calories. And like, young people, a lot of young people still struggle with that. We have such a trendy, like, diet culture still, where everybody just gets obsessed with, looking the part, but they're not really looking into like, what am I eating? What am I consuming? We have so many, packaged powders and packaged, everything's quick to go. And it's, if it's labeled healthy, we think automatically, grab that bar, it's blah blah blah, it's good, healthy for you, but it has like it's so processed, it has no actual nutrition in it, like real nutrition. And so, I think that that's a really important thing, is to think about like the fact that food, you really need nutrition. You don't need to focus so much on the calories, you need to focus on what you're getting in your body. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people think about. So I'm obviously you're a representation of a very healthy person. Nobody's perfect, but like you've figured out how to focus and be more balanced instead of more focused on just, calories and the scale and all of that,
Yeah, I remember it was just when I was in high school, there was this salad dressing that I made sure that was the only salad dressing I would eat. And is because it had 0 calories. So I could just dump it on my salad, and I knew that I wasn't gonna get any calories from it. And I looked at it the other day. They still sell it. I don't know what brand it is, but there's nothing. There's nothing in it. It's 0 calories, 0 fat, 0 sugars, zero everything. And that's not even food. Like
Nope.
that's being sold in a grocery store, but it's not even food. It's just a bunch of chemicals made up to look like food.
Well,
And
they just proved, I think it's the 0 calorie, a lot of the 0 calorie fake sugar, they've proven now that they lead to more strokes and heart attacks
yep,
and stuff. And like people do so much to be like that calorie fad diet stuff where they're focusing on the calories. If I can help myself not to feel hungry, but I can, eat this as how little amount of calories, 50 calories, then I'm healthy. It was like, no, like you have to have nutrition, you have to have nutrients in your food, and like we're losing it like in everything. The way that things are packaged, it's really misleading even to our children, and like for them to understand, like I'm sure that that's something you will teach your daughters just because it's something that you went through, like how to recognize nutrition versus just focusing on calories,
yeah, and it's misleading to children, and so are so many, not just foods, but like products. So there's
Yeah.
so much greenwashing. That's what it's called when they like pretend like they're green. So, for example, Mrs. Myers claims to be a green, clean, organic wash, like hand wash, dishwash, does all the washes. And it contains fragrance, which completely nullifies that it's clean. It's not.
Yeah.
And I know so many people that have reactions to
I
Mrs.
have.
Myers. Yeah. And
My
do your
hands
hands
get
get bright
horrible.
red?
Yeah,
Yep.
horrible. Yeah.
And it's because we don't know what they have in there. So they're not telling us. They're in that loophole where we don't know.
Yeah.
If they disclosed what their fragrance was, then maybe you'd know, maybe you have an allergy to this particular thing, but you're not even given that chance.
Exactly. I mean, it's scary. It's honestly scary when you think back how long we've been on this earth and how much, like, just in our lifetime, like, how much stuff we've been fed, literally, like, figuratively or literally, um, that is terrible for us. And in a health, we've been fed, packaged that this is healthy, and it's like it's affecting us. Like it's affecting our brain health, it's affecting our mental health, it's affecting our holistic health, which everything that affects our body and our holistic health affects every part of our body. And like
Totally.
it's so important that like genetics is another thing to
Yeah.
look in when you're thinking about your health. You have a family history of a disease that runs in your family, and so that's something I'd like you to kind of share about, because I think people don't think about that when they think about brain health and holistic health, how those things affect you as well as your actual predisposition to certain diseases and things like that.
Yeah. So my mom is one of 8 children, and she had her dad pass away when she was 4 from colon cancer.
Wow.
And then when her little brother was 14, he died of brain cancer. And then she's had 2 other brothers have colon cancer. One passed away 2 years ago, and one has been a survivor.
Wow.
But with all of the cancer, my mom was having colonoscopies from the time she was 20 years old. And my uncle was going through treatment down in San Diego, and the doctor brought up Lynch syndrome, which we had never heard of. And Lynch syndrome is a type of, it's in your genes, and it's a disease that causes brain cancer, colon cancer, and breast cancer. And so he was able to get tested and find out that he was a carrier of it, which made sense. And it kind of put all of the family history into it just made everything make so much more sense. So my mom was tested, and she's not a carrier of it. So she could not pass it along to my sister or myself, and I cannot pass it along. But of all the siblings, I'm not sure how many got tested. I know some chose to and some did not. But it is, I feel like it is really good to know what your predisposition to and what you could potentially be at risk for. And I also understand why you would not want to know if you don't feel like you can make a change for it. But I do feel like there are so many things that we can do to help prevent from these things. I mean, it is genetic, so you can only do so much when it is in your genes. But if you are taking the precautions and taking away the toxins that go in your body that are going to cause more, it just puts you at a healthier front for your body, and your body's working better.
Honestly, until I talked to you about this, I didn't even think brain cancer was something that was genetic. And so I know a lot of cancers are. We think of breast cancer as passed down, and I guess a lot of cancers are, but knowing ahead of time is a really helpful thing, because you can then look at, okay, well, now that I know this, what are the things that I can do to even stunt that happening and get checked
Right.
more often? Like you were saying, your mom getting those tests a lot more often. So that's like, to lose your parent at 3 or 4 years old is a huge, wake up call, I'm sure, to everyone, and really difficult. So is there anything that she has done or your family has done knowing that you have that like genetic predisposition?
Well, so typically you don't have to get a colonoscopy unless there's something abnormal until I believe you're 50.
Mm-hmm.
It might be in your 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to get them every couple years. I want to say every 2 to 3 years from the time she was 20.
Yeah.
But once she found out that she wasn't a carrier of Lynch syndrome, she didn't have to do that anymore, because now she was at no greater risk than the average person, and she got to go back to a regular schedule of, I don't know if it's your 40s or 50s, but then it's every so often based on what they find there. And so now, I mean, it was just a normal thing for my mom. I remember growing up all the time, my mom always doing that horrible prep for a colonoscopy. Typically, you don't have to get a colonoscopy unless there's something abnormal until I believe you're 50.
Mm-hmm.
It might be in your 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to get them every couple years. I want to say every 2 to 3 years from the time she was 20.
Yeah.
But once she found out that she wasn't a carrier of Lynch syndrome, she didn't have to do that anymore, because now she was at no greater risk than the average person, and she got to go back to a regular schedule of, I don't know if it's your 40s or 50s, but then it's every so often based on what they find there. And so now, I mean, it was just a normal thing for my mom. I remember growing up all the time, my mom always doing that horrible prep for a
Yes, yeah.
colonoscopy.
There's not a lot out there right now. So Beauty Counter is kind of breaking that industry, breaking into the industry, and even now they're available at Ulta. But there's a very good, it's it's even better to be able to do with a direct consultant because you can really get that personal touch and know they can know you and know your skincare and what you need specifically versus just walking in and talking to some random person at Ulta. You're not going
Which,
to get
yeah,
this
they don't.
full experience. Yeah.
But it does
And
get the brand name out there. It gets people a chance to see. I did just have a story of someone I work with who her friend had she's been talking to her about Beauty Counter for a long time, and her friend walked into Ulta and saw the products and saw how big and how beautiful they were. I think she was able, I don't know if she was able to sample them at all, but just seeing the bottles, she left Ulta, went home, called her friend and placed an order.
got it. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. It's nice knowing somebody that you can ask your questions about when you see it in the store. I mean, you can buy it at Ulta, but like knowing like now people will be able to watch this and there'll be a link. And if you are interested in Beauty Counter, you can reach out to Cassie because she's really understands and cares, is passionate about connecting you to what works for your skin, which might not work for someone else. There's different, like
Totally.
for me, it was sensitive skin. So what would work for somebody without sensitive skin? I might go into Ulta and just grab something and might try to check with somebody there that doesn't know a lot about Beauty Counter, but Cassie really knows her stuff, so I can ask and be like, "Well, I'm really sensitive to this," and like we did that. Like we kind of went back and forth of like, "Okay, well my skin does this. Like, what is going to be best for me?" And you were really honest about like, "Hey, this even sometimes even with sensitive skin, this can cause this. You know, you might want to try a sample." And she does samples. Like, it's a very personal touch to something that I think when it comes to your skin, just like when it comes to your body, like you go to a doctor or you go to a specialist or an expert, when it comes to the food you eat and understanding those things, it's good for your skincare to go to somebody who really knows the line, understands the product. And I promise I'm not into multi-level marketing, so I wouldn't be even having you on here and sharing about this if it was just some kind of a bad, trendy thing. Like to me, it's really about a product and integrity and sharing how this benefits holistically. And you've just been really genuine and authentic the whole time. And so I just really wanted to kind of hear your story a little bit more and share holistically how this has affected you and how you even got to this point and give people the opportunity to know about Beauty Counter and why makeup something that we put on our body every day, especially a lot of women, um, really need to think about like, hey, how is this affecting my health, my whole health? And, you know, resilience resourcing is now part of Neuro Wellness Community. So the podcast is going to be focusing more on getting to know women and their stories and what brought them into different types of holistic health, whole health, and how that affects our brains and our bodies. So I'm really grateful for you taking the time tonight to share everything that you know, even from your own personal experience and just behind the scenes Beauty Counter, what it is, why it's a good line, why you're passionate about it, why you put it on your children, and I'm gonna put the link in below when I post this so that people will be able to reach out personally to you if they are interested, and obviously the link to just check out Beauty Counter and the line and do the research because, like you just said, even things that are marketed like green, like Myers, which is all over Target and all these whole health places. I know for a fact I've put it on my hands and my hands are bright red, like burning, like and so you want to know just because something's marketed one way doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah.
sure.
Well, thank you so much, Cassie. I'm glad we have connected and I'm excited for what's ahead with Beauty Counter and the partnership that there may be in the future when it comes to our retreats and all of that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's
Of
fun.
course.